Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Budgetary. So today I'm going to talk about definition of budget. What is budget? Budget is a financial planning which created based on expenses, revenue, asset, liabilities and cash flow. It works as a benchmark for the actual performance. It is also a comparison between the actual and budgeting performance to establish the company's objective. Next is the purpose of budget. First is planning on the operation. The company need to gather all the necessary information in order to achieve the company's objective. Next is control and monitor the actual performance. The company need to ensure that the actual performance is within the budget plan. Next is proper communication between the subordinates and top management will create a realistic budget. Motivate and influence behavior among the employees. The budget also can help to generate guidelines for the actual performance. And lastly, it also can evaluate the performance to see if there are any significant differences among the actual and the budget performance. Next is the budgeting process. The first step is planning the process. The company need to identify the stuff that will involve in the process. The second step is communicating about the process. The communication between the employees in order to make sure that everyone's responsibility and job scope is clear. The third step is the company need to set a goal and objective. Then the company need to gather all the necessary information and revise together with all employees. The sixth step is committee review and then get the final approval from the board of the company and implement the budget plan. Key budget factor. Key budget factor is alignment of the plan with the actual objective. It is to ensure the accuracy and realistic budget. The involvement of subordinates and top management will help to improve the budget plan.
So next we go to the forecasting technique. There are two types of forecasting techniques, which is using a historical data and time series analysis. The definition of historical data. Historical data analysis. Using the historical data on costs at various activity levels, we arrive at a straight line relationship between them, which is then extrapolated to forecast costs for future activity levels. Okay, next we go to the time series analysis. Time series analysis is a sequence of data point measurement measured typically at successive times relate to series of value that vary over time. There are 5 methods using historical data. The first one is the engineering approach, the account analysis approach, scatter diagram, the high-low method, and regression analysis. There are 4 components in time series analysis. The first one, long-term trend, cyclical variation, seasonal variation, and random variation. The long-term trends is the way in which the graph of time series appears to be moving over a long interval of time when the short-term fluctuation have been smoothed out. The rise or fall due to factors that only change slowly. For example, increase or decrease in the population, technology improvement, competition from abroad. For the cyclical variation, this is the wave-like appearance of a time series graph when taken over numbers of years. Generally, it is due to the influence of booms and slumps in the industry. The period in time from one peak to the next peak is often approximately 5 to 7 years. The next one, seasonal variation. This is regular rise and fall over specific interval of time. For example, rises in the number of goods sold before Christmas and a sale time. Rises in the number of customers using a restaurant at lunchtime and dinner time. The last one, residual and random variation. These cover any other variation which cannot be ascribed to a seasonal variation, cyclical variation, and long-term trend. This is taken as happening entirely at a random due to the unpredictable causes. For example, strikes, fires, and sudden changes in Texas. The main purpose for analyzing a time series. The first one is be able to predict future value of the variable. Second one, to control future events. The third one is seasonal adjust. Do a seasonalize a set of data. The assumption of time series analysis, what has happened in the past can be used to predict what will happen in the future. The limitation of using a time series analysis, significant changes might occur quite quickly. Financial figure collected over a long period of time for time series analysis will be affected by changing price level.
Next, I will talk about the techniques of budgeting. There are 4 techniques of budgeting. Firstly, incremental budgeting. The previous year's budget will be taken as a base. When preparing the budget holder will add a certain percentage to allow for the changes in cost or revenue. The advantage of incremental budgeting are it's simple and cheap to prepare the budget and is suitable in a stable situation where there is not much changes in the environment. The disadvantage of this budget are it is assumed that the previous and current inefficiency may be continuous and will carry on. Secondly, zero-based budgeting. Zero-based budgeting is a method to budget where all transaction and production elements are evaluated when budgets are about to be drawn up. Zero-based budgeting also promotes efficiency where the managers are forced to revisit their activities regularly. The advantage of zero-based budgeting are it helps to identify and remove any inefficiency activity, and overspending activities also can be eliminated. The disadvantage of this budgeting are it is time consuming and also costly to prepare the budget, and managers sometimes tend to solve the short-term problems at the expense of long-term benefits. Thirdly, rolling budgeting. It is prepared when there is an element of risk and uncertainty and the future events cannot be forecasted reliably. The advantage of the rolling budgeting is budgets are more realistic and achievable since they are continuously revised to reflect changing circumstances. The disadvantage of this budget is they will take more time, effort, and costly. Lastly, activity-based budgeting. It refers to budgeted statement of proposed activities for the future by incrementing expected or budgeted costs and revenue. The advantage of this budgeting are it is suitable when overheads are significant and easy and list of cost trends over time. The disadvantage of this budgeting is the system is costly and needs skilled person to prepare the budget.
Next is budget control system. So what is it? It is basically a purpose of setting, monitoring, and adjusting budgets to ensure efficient use of financial resources toward achieving organizational goals. Number 1, feed-forward control. It involves using past performance data to plan for future budgets by anticipating potential problems and taking corrective actions before they occur. Feedback control, on the other hand, involves monitoring actual results and making adjustments to the budget after the fact. The main differences between these two is that the feed-forward control is proactive while feedback control is reactive. Number 1, feed-forward control. It involves using past performance data to plan for future. Next is motivational control. This type of control focuses on motivating employees to achieve the organization's goal by creating a work environment that encourages them to take ownership of their work and strive for excellence. An example would be setting challenging but achievable goals for employees and providing them with necessary resources, tools, and support to accomplish those goals. Number 3, behavioral control. This involves managing employees' behavior to ensure it aligns with the organization's goals and values by monitoring their performance, providing feedback, and enforcing disciplinary actions when necessary. An example would be monitoring employee attendance and punctuality to ensure that they are adhering to the organization's policies and values. Number 3, behavioral control. This involves managing employees' behavior to ensure it aligns with our. And last but not least, ethical issues of budgeting. This refers to making decisions that are fair and transparent, avoiding unethical practices, and maintaining the integrity of the organization. For instance, ensuring that the budget is developed based on accurate and reliable data, and that any assumptions or estimates are reasonable and supported by evidence.
There are few limitations of budgeting. First, budget are commitment. Every employee in the company has to comply with a budget that had been set for the year. This is to ensure that the company does not in the situation where there is an under budget and will lead company variance to the adverse budget. Next, reinforce barriers between departments. Employee only focus on their own department without thinking other department. Due to the employee need to ensure that their own department follow the budget that has been set. Furthermore, the limitation of budgeting is that any slack built into budget will provide for complacency on the part of employees. For example, the company's budget has stated that bonus of the year has not been paid due to the financial problem of the company. Hence, employee might not perform for their duties and make their job as simple as they can. Lastly, the limitation is restrict flexibility. Next, beyond budgeting is a set of guideline principles for the organization to manage its performance. The purpose of beyond budgeting is to enable the organization to meet the success factors of the information economy. The importance of it are to enable and encourage continuous innovation, leads to loyal and profitable customers, and lastly attracts and keeps the best people. Meanwhile, the advantages are fast response, innovative strategies, lower costs, and increased loyal customer. Lastly, disadvantages: lack of a roadmap which detail where a business is and where it wants to go. Lastly, budgets in an organization fabric and operating culture. There are 12 principles beyond budgeting, which is values, governance, transparency, teams, trust, accountability, goals, reward, planning, coordination, resource, and lastly, control. That is all from me. Thank you.